The history of money. From barter to Bitcoin, imagine a world with no cash, no credit cards, and no digital wallets. A world where buying dinner meant offering your neighbor a basket of apples in exchange for his goat. That's how it all began. Before the first coin was ever minted or the first Bitcoin mined, humanity's greatest innovation wasn't fire or the wheel, it was money. The story of how it evolved from primitive bartering to digital cryptocurrency is the story of civilization itself. A journey through trust, power, and imagination. The birth of trade, when barter ruled the world. Long before currencies existed, ancient humans lived in small communities where survival depended on mutual exchange. A hunter might offer animal hides to a farmer in exchange for grain. A potter might trade clay pots for salt. This system, known as barter, worked well only when both sides wanted what the other had. Economists call this the double coincidence of wants. But as societies grew larger, barter started breaking down. A fisherman couldn't always find a farmer who both wanted fish and had rice to trade. People needed something everyone would value, a universal medium of exchange. And so began humanity's quest to create money, something that could represent value, store wealth, and make trade possible across time and distance. The first money: shells, beads, and metals. The first money wasn't metal or paper, it was objects of shared value. In Africa and Asia, people used cowrie shells, beautiful, lightweight, and hard to counterfeit. In other places, they used beads, salt, or even large carved stones. On Yap Island in Micronesia, some of these stones, called rai, were so huge that they couldn't be moved. Ownership simply changed hands through agreement, not transport. Then came metals. Around 3000 BCE, ancient civilizations like Mesopotamia, Egypt, and China began using precious metals such as gold, silver, and copper. Metals were durable, easy to divide, and universally desired. They didn't rot like grain or shatter like pottery. Eventually, rulers began stamping these metals with royal seals, creating the first official coins. The earliest coins are believed to have been minted in Lydia, in modern-day Turkey, around 600 BCE. They were made of electrum, a natural alloy of gold and silver, and bore the marks of kings. For the first time in history, money carried both economic and political power. The rise of empires and the power of coinage. As trade routes spread across continents, coins became the lifeblood of empires. The Greek drachma, the Roman denarius, and the Persian darik circulated from one civilization to another, fueling armies, building monuments, and connecting distant cultures. Rome perfected this art. The silver denarius became so trusted that it acted like the dollar of the ancient world. But as the empire expanded, wars drained its treasury. Emperors began debasement, mixing cheaper metals into coins to mint more money without having the silver to back it. Inflation rose, prices soared, trust vanished. The economy, and eventually the empire itself, began to collapse. It was a timeless lesson. Money is only as strong as the faith behind it. The paper revolution, from Silk Roads to banks. By the 7th century, the Chinese Tang dynasty achieved something revolutionary: paper money. Carrying sacks of metal coins was heavy and dangerous for merchants traveling the Silk Road. So they began using promissory notes, written promises to pay later. By the Song dynasty, around 1000 CE, the Chinese government started printing official currency known as jiaozi. It was backed by gold and silk reserves, making it one of the earliest fiat systems in the world. When the explorer Marco Polo visited China in the 13th century, he was stunned. He wrote in disbelief about this paper that passed for gold. Europe, however, lagged behind. Medieval traders in Italy began using bills of exchange, allowing merchants to transfer money across cities without carrying coins. In Florence, the Medici family built powerful banks, inventing double-entry bookkeeping and credit systems that laid the foundation for modern finance, and thus banking was born. The birth of modern banking and national currencies. By the 17th century, Europe's empires were expanding, and with them came a need for stability and trust in money. The first central banks appeared, notably the Bank of England in 1694. It issued paper notes promising to pay the bearer a fixed amount of gold on demand. For centuries, this gold-backed system brought order to global trade. But soon, governments discovered the hidden power of money creation. They realized they could print more notes than the gold they actually had, relying on faith instead of metal. Thus was born fiat money, currency backed by government decree, not by tangible commodities. This transformation reached its peak in 1944, when global leaders gathered in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, to design a new economic order after World War II. They chose the US dollar as the world's reserve currency, backed by gold. For decades, this kept world economies balanced, until 1971, when President Richard Nixon severed the link between the dollar and gold. Overnight, every major currency became purely fiat. Money was no longer tied to metal. It was tied to belief. The digital revolution, credit, debt, and globalization. The late 20th century changed money again. This time, it became invisible. Credit cards introduced in the 1950s allowed people to spend money they didn't yet have. Banks began digitizing records. By the 1990s, with the rise of the internet, online, banking and e-commerce transformed the global economy. Money now moved faster than ever across continents, currencies, and time zones. Cash became optional. Salaries were wired, bills paid online, purchases made with a tap. But this convenience came with a price: centralization. Every transaction flowed through banks or payment processors. Every swipe and click was recorded, tracked, and analyzed. Governments and corporations gained unprecedented control over financial systems and the people who used them. Debt skyrocketed, inflation surged and crashed. And when crises hit, from 2008 to the COVID-19 pandemic, governments simply printed more money. People began to ask, what if money could exist without banks, without governments, and without manipulation? The birth of Bitcoin, money without masters. In 2008, amid the wreckage of the global financial crisis, an anonymous figure, or group, known as Satoshi Nakamoto, published a 9-page white paper titled Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. It proposed something radical: a decentralized form of money based on cryptography instead of trust. On January 3, 2009, Nakamoto mined the first Bitcoin block, the Genesis block. Hidden in its code was a message: The Times, C3 Jan 2009 Chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks. It was both a protest and a prophecy. Bitcoin introduced the concept of digital scarcity. Only 21 million would ever exist. Every transaction was recorded on a blockchain, a transparent, decentralized ledger maintained by thousands of computers worldwide. No single government or bank could control it. For the first time in history, money belonged not to monarchs or central banks, but to mathematics. What began as an experiment among tech enthusiasts soon became a global movement. New cryptocurrencies emerged: Ethereum, Litecoin, Ripple, each expanding the possibilities of decentralized finance, or DeFi. But as crypto's value soared and crashed, questions arose. Could something so volatile ever replace traditional money? Or was it just the latest chapter in humanity's endless obsession with wealth and control? The future of money. Between trust and technology, today we stand on the edge of another revolution. Physical cash is fading fast. Central banks are exploring CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, programmable digital versions of national money. Payment systems like Apple Pay, Alipay, and PayPal have blurred the boundaries between cash, credit, and crypto. Money has become data, an invisible web of code, encryption, and trust. But one truth endures: money works only because we agree it does. From shells to silver, from paper to blockchain, every form of money has been built on the same foundation: belief. It's not the material that gives money value. It's our collective confidence in what it represents. The eternal currency of trust. From barter to Bitcoin, the story of money is really the story of human cooperation. Each innovation, from the first coin to the latest crypto token, reflects our desire to turn effort into value and value into opportunity. Money has always mirrored who holds power, who builds systems, and who gets left behind. But at its heart, it's still about trust. Trust that the paper in your wallet or the numbers on your screen will mean something tomorrow. Trust that society will honor a promise made in code or ink. The real power of money has never been gold, paper, or blockchain. It's the belief that unites us all. And as technology continues to reshape finance faster than ever before, maybe the next evolution of money won't be about what we spend, but about what we choose to believe is truly valuable. If you found this journey through the history of money fascinating, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, because the next chapter of money's story is already being written.